Good evening. Yes, clustered, yeah. Good evening, council, members of the audience and staff. Thanks for being here tonight. Please join me in standing for the invocation to be given by Councilmember Finch.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for your grace and forgiveness. We thank you for this beautiful day you gave us today. Lord, I pray as we convene this meeting that you give us wisdom to consider the items that are before us, so we make the best decisions for our town. Father, we thank you so much for the town you've blessed us with, the many blessings. In your name, amen.
Amen. Please join me standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. You can welcome one more time to the regular town council meeting for Monday, February 27th. Time is 7:02. For the record, we have 4 of the 7 council members present. With the 4 of the 7 present, we have quorum. Council members who are present are Mr. Finch, Mayor Pro Tem Clark, Mr. Freeman, and Mr. George. Mr. Egan, Mr. Eldridge, and Mr. Allen are expected to be absent tonight. With that, first item is introduction. I believe Mr. Lopez is not here tonight. So at this time, let me invite Town Manager to introduce Mikhail Reeve, Interim Finance Director.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I am pleased to introduce to you tonight our Interim Finance Director, Mikhail Reeve. Mikhail comes to the town of Sunnyvale in her capacity, having 25 years of local government finance experience, including 12 years as a finance director in previous cities, including Terrell, Red Oak, Govilla, Mount Pleasant, and she was even the county auditor for Ellis County at one point. She has a bachelor's degree of business administration and accounting, and she is certified by the Government Finance Officers of America, a certified government finance manager, as well as a certified finance officer through GFOA. So we're very excited to have her on board. She has a significant amount of experience in local government finance in smaller communities such as Sunnyvale's, and she's been here for a few weeks. So I apologize for the delay in getting her introduced to you all, but we're happy to have her, and so we wanted to bring her to council and officially welcome her to Sunnyvale tonight.
Welcome, Ms. Reeves.
Welcome.
Picture. This is a welcome late. I'll let you hold it.
Don't worry, this will just go in the magazine.
All right, next item is announcement. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0415, Mayor, Council, and staff may report on various items listed on the agenda. Council, do you have any announcements to make? Mr. Freeman?
Quick announcement. First off, start with the congratulations for our basketball team making it to the state tournament this week. Don't know if you have heard, but their first game of the state tournament is Friday at 3 o'clock in San Antonio. So if anybody can come out, we'd love to have you because they're playing Bernie, which is 30 miles away from San Antonio. So kind of negate some of that home court advantage.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Are there any additional announcements? Staff, do you have any announcement? Jeff? Anybody else? Ms. Erica?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Our next movie event is on March 31st. That's a Friday. It's going to be right out here on the back deck, well, in the amphitheater setting. And the doors open at 7 p.m. The movies start at 7:45 p.m. And there's going to be a double feature, Schoolhouse Rock, and then Minions: The Rise of Gru. Sir?
Food truck?
They have concessions available for purchase, or you can bring your own food, and we encourage everybody to bring a blanket or chairs for seating.
That's awesome. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Moving on to the public comments. This is the time members of the audience may come forward and speak to the council on any items other than legal or personal matters or items on the agenda. If there's anyone who would like to come forward, you may do so at this time. I thought, Mr. Thomas, you may have something. That's okay. Good to see you, Miss Barbara and Thomas. All right, if nobody is coming forward, I'm going to close the public comments. Council, we have two items on the consent agenda, item number 5 and 6. Would anyone like to remove either of the items from the agenda? Okay, if not, can I have a motion to approve consent agenda items 5 and 6?
Motion to approve consent agenda items 5 and 6.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Freeman, second by Mr. Clark to approve consent agenda item 5 and 6. All in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 4-0. Voting for, Mr. Finch, Mr. Clark, Mr. Freeman, and Mr. George, absent. Mr. Allen, Mr. Eldridge, and Mr. Egan. Moving on to the discussion and action items. Portion of the agenda, item number 7, discuss, consider and act upon additional service request from Walter P. Moore in an amount not to exceed $168,550 for design of a water line replacement in East Strip Road between Collins Road and East Fork Road. That be Mr. Jenkins?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr.
Good evening,
Mayor,
sir.
Council. Thank you. Yeah, just a little bit of background on this. As y'all know, we've had this project under design with Walter P. Moore for some time to do drainage improvements to the ditches along East Strip Road, as you say, between Collins Road and East Fork Road. That also includes provision of a sidewalk on the north side of Trip for that entire length of that project that would connect to the existing sidewalk to the west, where the roundabout is, at the high school, excuse me. A lot of the stuff on the north side of
I'm
the...
sorry, did you say to the high school or the admin building?
I apologize, sir. I meant it connects to the sidewalk that runs along the SISD campus and eventually connects, so you'll have a continuous walking surface from East Fork Road all the way down to the roundabout at Collins.
Okay, thanks.
I apologize if I misspoke.
No problem.
The reason we're coming before you tonight is, as this design has progressed, we have realized, or it has become apparent, the town has an existing 8-inch water line that's in close proximity to these drainage improvements. This line is old. Public Works has had to go out on multiple occasions in the past to make repairs to it. If the drainage improvements were to be constructed with that existing line still remaining in place, then the next time Public Works has to go out and repair it, they might have to tear up some of the new improvements. So we felt it was more appropriate to just go ahead and replace the water line now, because that water line has already been on the town's CFP program to be replaced. And we know that it's going to have to be done eventually. So it just makes more sense to do it now as part of the overall project. This proposal before y'all today is for Walter P. Moore to incorporate that design into the overall project. Their base fee is $148,140 for design services, with an additional $20,410 for any additional services during construction. So a total not to exceed cost of $168,550. With that, I'd be more than happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Lyle. Let me take public comments. If there's anyone from the members of the audience who would like to come forward and speak to the council on item number 7, you may do so at this time. Okay, no one is coming forward, so I'm going to close the public comments. Council, are there any questions or discussions?
Yeah, question.
Mr. Clark.
Lyle, okay, so the sidewalk will go from the school all the way to East Fork? Is that
Oh,
Yes, sir, that is correct. You'll have a continuous path that entire length.
Right, okay. Now, this work that needs to be done, I think there's 2 water main breaks around there in that area, or there's been several collapses of the drainage pipes. Is that related?
Well, the drainage pipe collapses that I believe you're referring to, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong here. I mean, we've had to do work on the existing drainage infrastructure, and we've had to do work on the water line. They're not directly related to each other. It's just all the infrastructure in that area is old and it is in need of replacement.
Right, okay. And then generally, I know that area also has a lot of runoff from a lot of the construction. It has a lot of dirt and stuff that builds up, a lot of sediments, and there's issues there with sediments. Is that related at all also to the buildup of, the drainage, the buildup of the sediments blocking?
One of the reasons, and not the only one, but one of the reasons is because the existing ditches in Tripp Road, they have very uneven bottom. They're just old, and they don't drain smoothly. So it creates a lot of places where sediment and silt can build up over time. Part of this project will be to remove those areas so that the water flows there will continue to flow through there smoothly. Now, the individual property owners, of course, will still need to do maintenance on their properties. But this is to keep it flowing properly in Tripp Road proper so that we don't have those buildups.
Right, okay, thank you.
So like the idea of investing money while we are working on the drainage project. So when is the drainage project is going to be done? What's the timeline for this and the drainage project?
Well,
Sidewalk, all of them?
The design, the drainage and sidewalk project, that design is I would say it's substantially complete. We have been negotiating with the property owners along the alignment. There are a number of places where we've had to get right-of-way easements, things of that nature. And we've had an external consultant that's been very helpful in obtaining most of those. We're just about complete with that process. We do need to make a couple of just minor adjustments to the plans to accommodate some of the concerns, some of the questions that the residents have brought to our attention that just make good sense. So we still have a few little minor things to do in that regard. Other than that, that part is essentially complete, but then we would have to incorporate this water line into the overall project. Since they've already done all the needed survey work, they're already familiar with the existing infrastructure, we would be able to get it designed more quickly than if we were to do it as a separate project in its own right.
So this one is for the design to incorporate the water line and the installation, right?
Well, the design would include all that. I mean, it still has to be sent out to bid eventually for construction.
Okay, so this is going to be replacing an 8-inch water line with an 8-inch water line, right, Brian? 8-inch cast iron. Yeah, so it's not okay.
Right, the line's got plenty of capacity for the area. It's just it's an old line, it needs to be replaced.
Okay. So Brian, going back, right? So I know your team has been, Kevin, I have seen your team working different hours, many long hours trying to replace. You think this will fix the issue, the need to go?
Well, it'll certainly help it a ton. So the issue where I saw when we started looking at this drainage thing is they were going to put underground storage. So you have drainage boxes and a sidewalk built over the top of an old water line that we routinely have to go in and excavate and repair. And I was like, well, now's the time to look at this before we spend a ton of money putting in this drainage project. And we go out there and 2 a.m. or whenever, we're not going to be kind to our project. We're going to start tearing that stuff out and get the water back in service as quick as possible. And so it seemed prudent to go ahead and change the water line prior to that occurring, because we're routinely going out there, so we're going to have an issue that would come in conflict with the new construction.
So again, I like the idea of replacing. The timing is right. So question is, if you replace this with a new cast iron pipe,
we would replace it with likely C900. I mean, I don't want to speak for the engineers, but I would think that would be the likely.
Okay.
Right, yeah, I mean, as Brian said, the existing line that's been out there, that's a cast iron pipe. The new line would be, as Brian say, C900 PVC pipe, which is the current industry standard for water lines. Once this is replaced, I mean, the issues that Brian's referring to, they shouldn't have to go out there again for years, decades,
Okay.
to have to do these kind of repairs again. I mean, if there's some kind of major accident, they may have to do something, but the idea is they wouldn't have to go out for these frequent issues like they're having to do now.
Again, this is the right thing to do, and Jeff and I talked about, right, when you are working on something, let's go fix everything associated with it, right? So is there anything else you need to go fix, whether the gas line, was there any, I don't know,
Well, I guess
cable
not-
or something, or?
Well, the gas line, they're actually, Atmos Energy is currently doing their relocations at
That's
this
true.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
You may have observed them out there
Right.
working. The other private franchise utilities, they've already completed their relocations because we contacted them earlier, so they knew this project was coming.
Okay.
You know, there will have to be some pavement repairs, obviously, in order to get all this done, and any paving repair could just be incorporated into the project. That would not require a separate design.
Okay. So this should pretty much complete everything needs to be done.
In that section of Trip Road, Mayor, I believe
Yes, sir.
so. Yeah, and just for context purposes, and Brian can correct me and Lyle can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is likely the same vintage of a cast iron water line that broke on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
At the other end of Trip, I would guess they're probably the same vintage, and these are not the only cast iron water lines that we have in our community, but they are far and above the most susceptible to breakage. And what happened on Christmas Day is that it broke in one place, it was repaired, and then when it was pressurized, it broke in another place, and I think it broke in 3 places, Brian. So, and that's just the nature of that age of a cast iron water main. So absolutely, this'll take care of all of the town utilities in that project vicinity, but recognize there are still other older cast iron water mains that will eventually break in town, and so those are on the capital improvement program list and need to be dealt with as well, but.
Again, as we go into the strategic session, to take on what Jeff said, let's take this as a lesson learned, and when we have other projects, water line or something, let's just package everything. Let's do all of them together, right?
Yep.
We may have to pull certain things time-wise forward, but let's fix everything together at one time. So Lyle, you said about it's mostly done, so I'm still looking for a date. When do you think it'll go out for a bid?
Well, they will have to add this water line into the plans. We certainly can get it out to bid this year. Hopefully by the second quarter, we could at least get a bid started. We obviously would need to think about the time of year when we go to construction. We don't want to go to construction and then be shut down because of, icy weather or something when we get into that time again. But we can still get it out to bid and just start the construction when the weather's more forgiving.
And will this slow down the current project of building the drainage and building the sidewalks?
It will delay the entire project because we're going to build it all as a single project. But as I say, the design of the rest of it, it won't slow out to the design. It would just delay the construction until we can incorporate the water line.
Can we start the construction bid process fully knowing that the design still needs to be tweaked? I'm trying to see how do we pull these things forward, right?
I would not recommend it. It'd be very difficult to bid the project before everything is finished. And with the water line having to go in sort of underneath the proposed drainage infrastructure, it really wouldn't be practical to treat them separately. It really needs to be done as a unit.
And Mayor, I think using the existing engineering firm who's already done all of the existing project is going to expedite what a typical engineering design for a water line would take in terms of duration. So that should hopefully shorten that time frame to the greatest extent possible. If we were to use a different engineering firm, it would definitely delay the project even longer. So this is probably the most expeditious way that we could get this added to the project without too long of a delay. But we definitely want to have all of the engineering done before we go to construction.
Okay. If it goes out for bid, how long do you anticipate the construction will be?
Just as a general rule of thumb, I like to try to estimate a 12-month construction time. That takes into account weather delays and factors like that. But yes, 12 months would be, I would expect that to be a reasonable estimate. That being said, we recognize that people live along there. They're going to need to maintain access to their homes during the construction time, and that all does get factored into the bid, that they have to make sure that people that live along Trip can access their homes at all times.
Okay. Additional questions or discussions on this topic? If there is no more discussions, can I have a motion with respect to item number 7?
Motion to approve item number 7 as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Clark, seconded by Mr. Freeman to approve item number 7 as presented. Everyone heard the motion and the additional discussions? If none, all in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 4-0. Mr. Finch, Mr. Clark, Mr. Freeman, and Mr. George voting in favor. Moving on to item number 8, discuss, consider, act upon resolution 2023-04, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Sunnyvale, Texas, authorizing the execution of a joint election contract for election services with the Dallas County Elections Department and authorizing the town manager to execute the contract. Ms. Ramsey?
Mayor and council, as you all are aware, each year the town contracts with Dallas County Elections to conduct our general election. This contract before you tonight just provides them conducting our general election to be held on Saturday, May 6th, and any joint election shall that be necessary. Dallas County is still in the process of figuring the costs for each entity. They have to wait until all the deadlines are met before they can configure that to see who drops out of the election. So as soon as staff has that, we can bring that back to you. However, it is budgeted in the budget for this year.
Okay, let me open up for public comment. See if there's anyone from the members of the audience who would like to come forward and speak to the council on item number 8. You may do so. No one is coming forward, so we're going to close the public comments. Council, any questions on action number 8? Mr. Freeman.
Rachel, this contract is the same as the contract always is, no substantial changes.
No substantial changes, and legal has reviewed it.
Spectacular, thank you.
Additional questions or comments? If none, I call for a motion on item number 8.
Motion item number 8, or to approve item 8 as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Freeman, seconded by Mr. Clark to approve item number 8 as presented. Everyone heard the motion? All in favor? Signify. All opposed? Motion passed 4-0. Mr. Finch, Mr. Clark, Mr. Freeman, and Mr. George vote in favor. Moving on to item number 9, Mayor and Council request for future staff updates and agenda items. Council. Mr. Finch.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one request for staff. We continue to have, despite our best efforts with enforcement, continued heavy truck parking at Clay and Long Creek. There's an empty lot at that corner, or an empty corner, that these drivers take advantage of. There's no other place for them to stage, so they tend to stage there and then back up down the road. And I know, Lieutenant, you're probably familiar with where I'm talking about. And so I just want to see if there is, outside of having a constant police presence and using our police resources to be there, for any other methods or means that we can discourage heavy truck parking there. My fear is that as we build that other warehouse, that it's going to get worse. And so there's no real other place for them to stage, so they sit there and then they pull in there when it's wet and they drag the mud out, and it just is a mess. And then they stack up down the road, and I think it creates a hazard. We've done a really good job, thanks to you guys. I think you've stopped them from stacking like they used to all the way down the road, but they still, every morning I drive by there at 7 a.m. and they're still there. There's a few of them parked there, and so it's not an enforcement issue. I think it's just an opportunity issue. And so, anyway, I just appreciate if staff could look at that and give us some options.
Mr. Clark? Mr. Clark?
A request to staff. Could we get an update on the parks plan and maybe the Rails for Trails plan, the different trails plans? And, maybe that's a workshop, maybe that's a open workshop type of thing, I don't know, but it'd be nice to have just discussion about that topic, both about parks, Salmon Farm North, and just maybe some of the different connecting trails, and kind of push that forward. We put a great plan together. We passed it several months ago, so it'd be nice to see what we're going to do next, or just get that ball rolling. And maybe it's rolling already, but just be good to get an update or have a workshop on that. The second item is traffic calming. We discussed that last session. So Are there gonna be any things that we wanna talk about, you know, for traffic calming, methods to use on some of the roads that we've been looking at, you know, so kind of just get an update and see where the ball is and see if we need to discuss our next moves, if we need to talk to police, if we need to talk to, you know, staff, and if you want recommendations from us. You know, I have some great recommendations that I'm happy to share, so, thanks.
On the same topic, agenda items, we have the radars everywhere, so if there is an updated data, because we had a 3-day data points presented by you, Lieutenant, so if there is more data to show a different story, that may just kind of help with the policy decisions, enforcement type of thing, okay. Anything else? Okay, if there is none, I call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Freeman, second by Clark to adjourn. All in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 7-0. Time is 7:27. Today's meeting is adjourned. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Thank you, audience, for attending. Thanks.